All right, hey gents, we are out here at Rock Castle Shooting Center. We are in Thunder Valley. I mean, you can get out to a mile out here, and I'm out here with a Barrett M82A1 and a Barrett M107. They're both 50 cals. Can you guys tell me which one's which? We'll pause there, put it down in the comments. All right, which one's which? Come on now, you guys are supposed to know this stuff. Guys, there's no difference. There is zero difference between this one right here, the M107, and that one right there, which is the M82A1. Pretty easy, right? So, why is that? I'll get to that in a minute. So, you guys know my background, all right? I was a Green Beret, 25 years, and you guys know most of my background was behind sniper rifles. I had a M21 back in Desert Storm. Got in my Special Forces career and primarily behind, starting off with an M24, and we had M40 XBs and everything else. But then Global War on Terror, my weapon of choice was the SR-25, 308, and I could run that gun. Suppressed, lots of success with it in the JAF, Fallujah, up in the mountains in Afghanistan. That was my gun. But if anybody ever asked me which was my favorite gun, it would often surprise them. And guys, that's because this right here is my favorite, all right? No, I'm not gonna lick it for Chad. I'm not gonna do it, all right? But guys, this puppy right here is the M82A1. This is what my A-team had. My A-team had a bunch of these things. Now, what makes this gun so awesome? Well, because it shoots the 50 BMG. Now, what is that? Well, I appreciate you guys asking. All right, let me pull one of them out here for you. Grab it out of the mag without hurting nothing. All right, 50 BMG. Now, guys, this thing goes all the way back World War II era, a little bit before actually, and it is a badass round. If you look at the old footage of the B-17 bombers, all right, they had 50 cal machine guns all over them. A lot of our fighters in the Air Force back then, the Army Air Corps had 50 cal machine guns on them. Now, if you've seen like the old movies, Battle of the Bulge, stuff like that, you'll see the Army half-tracks with the quad 50 cals. Those are designed for shooting down aircraft. All right, now, that's basically what this thing is for. It's made for killing material. It's made for killing aircraft. It's awesome. It's not made for killing mammals. This is an anti-material cartridge. Why in a rifle? Well, it actually goes back before the Barrett rifle here. You go back to World War I, you start looking at the original birth of armor on the modern battlefield, the old World War I tanks. You start looking at them, and they were very, very small, and the intent of them was for crossing over the trench lines and, without getting tore up by all the small arms, the machine guns, they had, the Maxims and everything else that are just cutting down the infantry. The tanks could roll across those battlefield. If you've ever gotten to some of the old arms museums, you'll go through them, the old World War I museums, you'll find some big, huge rifles, and they've got like skis on them. And what they were is they were man-portable cannons, anti-tank cannons that fired Mungaso bullets. And the intent of them was they were designed for anti-tank rifles. Now, fast forward World War II, you get into Blitzkrieg and everything else, and those small World War I tanks were quickly replaced by much larger tanks. The Americans, our weapon of choice was the old M4 Sherman tank, but you start looking at the German armor, the Panzers, you get all the way up through the Panthers and the Tigers, and there was no way an infantry-held rifle, no matter how big you made it, there was just no way that this rifle round right here was going to be able to stop armor. So the idea of a man-portable heavy rifle like this kind of went away. Yeah, it went away until 70s and 80s. This guy by the name of Ronnie Barrett. Short guy, great American. He's one of the greatest Americans I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. He takes the 50 cal BMG and he creates in 1982 this rifle right here, the M82. Now, I've actually held Ronnie's original Barrett. It's there at the Barrett factory in Murfreesboro, and it's a god-awful ugly thing. It is, but very little has changed from that original M82 to this one right here, the M82A1. Now, this is what was issued to soft units, special ops units, and great gun. Awesome gun, guys. Now, soft units were using it. It was still called the M82A1. It had certain improvements and everything over Ronnie's original, but basically it takes a 10-round box magazine, right? And it has an old M60 bipod on the front of it. Now you notice it's semi-auto, but not only is it semi-auto, but this barrel actually reciprocates back and forth a little bit. It comes back a little bit, it unlocks, and then the whole bolt carrier group slides back here and it throws back forward. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning that is because this barrel is not hooked to the upper receiver where the scope is hooked. Because of that, this is not a tack driving rifle. It's not. It's, you know, some people say it's a 2 MOA gun. I'll say it's a 4 MOA gun all day long. 4 MOA does not, that just doesn't sound very accurate. But when you think about your engaging tanks or BMPs or troops in the open, or one of my personal favorites is shooting up Bedouin pickup trucks. If you're shooting Bedouin pickup trucks with this thing, you don't need a half MOA gun. You need something that can throw a lot of rounds rapidly and repeatedly. This thing will sling 700 grain slugs as fast as you can pull the trigger. It is a beautiful thing, guys, here. I mean, it really is. They added the monopod on the back. A lot of guys still like to use the sandbags behind the back of the gun. I became a big fan of the monopod on the back because you could hold that monopod and you're actually leaning into the gun and you're pulling it forward with your support hand as your strong hand is quickly running that trigger. Shooting prone, it's a fun gun to shoot. It's even better out of like the window of a helicopter. I've shot this from the windows on MH-53s. We'd have the door gunner pull his minigun out of the window so we could shoot. You just had to be careful of that big fuel tank running down the side of the bird there. I've shot them out of MH-47s. I've shot them out of Blackhawks. It's a fun gun to shoot. Now, you'll notice up at the front, it's got this big Spade muzzle brake. I want you to see the shape of this puppy right here. Now, this Spade muzzle brake, it catches all that gas coming out, and that's what gets rid of a lot of the recoil. It's not just that it is semi-automatic, but it's got that nice Spade muzzle brake, which is awesome. It's awesome. It catches all that gas and throws it back in a V, so you, the gunner, you're not catching all that recoil in your shoulder. Don't get me wrong, it kicks like a horse, but it's not a big horse, right? And that muzzle blast is going off to a fan. Now, I mention that because people that go from a regular sniper rifle to a Barrett with the Spade brake on it, if you're not used to it, your spotter will usually lay to your left or right. The problem with having your spotter lay to the left and right is that quickly puts him right in the middle of that blast zone from that Spade. And it gets ugly, it really does. So if you're gonna spot with this thing, you wanna get back behind your spotter, or back behind your shooter, actually get back between his legs there, look over his shoulder, because if you're in the cone to the left and right of the gun, man, it'll ring your bell. It really will. It will ring your bell. Now, I want to talk ammo with this thing. Now, you can de-link ammo. You can, and that's what a lot of the military units actually got to do, actually had to do, was de-link it. Now, I say regular Army because when everybody saw how great this thing was performing for soft units, they actually, the Big Army adopted it. Now, Big Army, just like everything else, they got to give it their own number. Couldn't call it a M82A1, even though there was no other piece of equipment using that. What do you think Big Army called it? M107. That's right. It's the M107. They are the exact same guns. Just if you look at the gun that was issued to Big Army, the rest of the military, Marine Corps, everybody else, they got the M107. Guys, the only difference is what is stamped on the receiver. That's it. All right. So they'd have to de-link the same machine gun ammo that they're running through their M250 cals on their Humvees and their other on their other larger trucks. Now, so you can run tracer through it, you can run ball through it. It's good stuff. It's fun to shoot. Now, there is match grade ammo for it. For example, we've been plinking with this Hornady stuff. Now, this is I think it's 750 grain AMAX bullet. Guys, tack driving stuff. Now, the SEALs back in the day, they had match grade 50 cal bolt action rifles, and those things, dude, they'd group great. They would. Much better than the stuff we were shooting. Was I coveting thy neighbor's sniper rifle? Not at all, guys. I'd take the M82, or what everybody calls the M107. I'd take the M107 any day over a bolt action because it allowed me to shoot whole magazines, semi-auto, as fast as you could pull the trigger, you could throw rounds at it. So the accurate ammo, yeah, you can group a little better with it, but that was not my round of choice. My round of choice, silver with the green tip on the top of it. This right here, guys, is Rifleman ammo. Now, it still falls under some of the other common rounds. And the 50 cal BMG, they've got incendiary rounds and armor piercing rounds. You got slap rounds that are like a sabot, and they'll go through all kinds of stuff. But they have another round that's called armor piercing incendiary. Now, when you look at the box of Rifleman rounds, it too also says armor piercing incendiary. Not quite the same thing. Guys, this it's made in Rifleman. It's a city over in Europe, and it comes de-linked. It comes laid nice and pretty in an ammo can, and it's armor piercing incendiary, but it's got a penetrating rod, but it's also got Petin explosive in it. It is a beautiful thing. You shoot with this thing, you don't have to worry about seeing trace. You get little explosions everywhere this thing goes off. So if you've ever tried like lighting fuel tanks and stuff, shooting fuel tanks with tracers, you'll realize tracers against fuel drums and stuff, it doesn't light them on fire very well. Rifleman does. Rifleman is awesome. You can shoot brick walls and Rifleman will tear them up. It's beautiful against Bedouin pickup trucks. It's beautiful against goats. It's beautiful against everything. I had one deployment over in Djibouti, Africa, Horn of Africa, and we were like the QRF for some CIA ops going on in Somalia. We never got called off, never killed a human being the whole trip, but we sat there at the ready the whole time, and we were, what do you do? Well, you train, and you train a lot. I would go out with my Barrett and a whole can of Rifleman rounds, and I'd come back all punch drunk from that shockwave hit me in the face. My sinuses would be all cleared out. I'd sometimes a bloody nose. It didn't matter. I'd shoot a whole can, have a blast, and I'd go back in the supply ammo tent there. As I tell the guys, supply guy, hey, I need another can of ammo. And he looked at me one time. He's like, all right, Carl, here's another can. I got 10 more cans for you, but I just want you to know the taxpayers are paying $77 a round. Now, that was 2003. In 2003, Rifleman rounds, Mod Zero was $77 a round. I cannot even imagine how much this stuff costs today. Thank you, by the way, taxpayers, for feeding my ammo habit. I shot a lot of ammo over there. Now, guys will talk about you know, because all you guys shoot your 5.56 rounds. If you've ever opened up a 5.56 round and seen the amount of gunpowder inside of it, you'll see it's a nice little pile of gunpowder. That casing's full. You know, it's good. And then those guys that start their girlfriends off by having her shoot a 12 gauge and that bad recoil makes her never want to shoot with you again, pour out that gunpowder from a 12 gauge in a little pile, and then, brother, crack open a 50 cal, pull that 800 grain slug out, pour that gunpowder out, guys, and you'll see, when you start talking recoil, this gun right here, it's a son of a gun. So you need that Spade on the front. If you got somebody in your unit that you don't like and that talks a lot of crap, you bring them out to the range, you loosen those two little Allen heads on the front, take that Spade muzzle brake off the front of that thing, and have him shoot a couple magazines without that brake on it, and I guarantee you he won't brag about how tough he is anymore. It will. It'll knock you back. It'll make you rethink what you're doing. Now, I mentioned we use this Rifleman soft. Now, again, for sniper ops, we had the 300 Win Mags. We have 338 Lapuas. We've got all the other sexy guns. 7.62x51, the 118 LR. You guys know that's my bread and butter through the SR25. Love that gun. Love that round. So, what would you use this in this for? And I appreciate you asking. Now, the main reason why Soft Start picked it up was, if you think back Desert Storm time frame, what was the big thing that guys were worried about back then? And they were worried that Saddam Hussein would have these Scud missiles hidden everywhere. All right, okay, so we would actually get classes on where you could shoot the Scud missile to deadline it without making it blow up. Because if it was loaded with chemical weapons, that would be a bad thing, all right? All that fuel cooking off, there ain't no telling where it would sling that warhead. But another great use for the Barrett, if you go back and you look at the former Soviet Union, and a lot of their doctrine was, because go back Cold War, think Cold War for a second. Our B-52s would have to be able to get to those air bases or get into the Soviet Union to bomb the targets, to drop the nuclear bombs. The problem with that is the Soviet MiGs and their own supersonic backfire bombers, they could take off from their airfields and get out there and get to our carriers, get to those B-52s before our B-52s and our other bombers could get close enough. So we needed a way, how do you stop these aircraft from getting there? You could shoot them down en route, yeah. But a better way to do it is destroy them while they're on the ground, which is the advantage of having stealth bombers. But before all this stealth technology, one way to do it would be to send in special ops guys, have them halo in, go in behind enemy lines. They could come up to the airfield, sneak in, right? Y'all are picturing it, right? The guy's got the knife in his teeth and he's sneaking in. I don't know why they do that. We were never taught that. But then place the charges just like they do in the movies on the planes and destroy all the fighters. That sounds great until you actually study Soviet doctrine, and they put marked minefields all the way around their airfields. So what do you do? Do you crawl through a minefield? You could do that, or you could put a couple SFA teams up around that airfield, and with all those fighter planes parked out there, with this gun right here shooting this Rofus ammo, they have taught us there's certain places to shoot MiGs and just about every other kind of fighter aircraft, bomber aircraft. Where can you shoot that plane to deadline it? Now, that doesn't mean you have to blow it up. You just have to deadline it. The goal considered deadline out of the fight is take it out for 30 days. All right? But again, if you think about it, you're doing it right before the B-52s get there. As long as you could take it out of the fight for 6-8 hours, I mean, that buys them time. But with Rofus rounds and a Barrett, think about how many guys could halo in with this thing. Because if you collapse this barrel down inside, guys, this gun is only that long. You could halo with it one half of the rifle on either side of you, your rucksack down below you with all of your gear and your ammo, and you could halo jump with this thing. Get in there, walk, set up outside the minefield, and shoot and you could take out those planes. So that is one use of this fine rifle right here for special ops. You can get through walls with this thing. You can take out, I mentioned trucks, you can take out vehicles. It gives quick reaction forces and other units like that are dismounted, it gives them a heavy weapon that they normally wouldn't have unless they had vehicles with them. So it gives the commander on the ground a lot of versatility, and that's why you see a lot of other units out there internationally adding the Barrett 50 cals to their inventories. Now, fast forward, there have been advances in this. Matter of fact, if you go back and watch one of our older videos, I had a M107A1, and it's a sexy gun. It's 5 pounds lighter, a little bit shorter, and it doesn't have the Spade muzzle brake that a lot of people don't like. It's actually got a round one, but the cool part about it is it still catches the same amount of recoil, but the gun has been modified, interior and up front there, so that you can put on a suppressor. Now, I remember Ronnie and his son Chris coming out with Steve Holland out at the 5th Group Sniper Locker, and hey, we finally worked out the bugs on our 50 cal for the suppressor. And because we obviously always wanted suppressors for this thing, yeah, it never happened. That said, today they do have suppressors for the 50 cals. It's not so much, guys, to get rid of the sound. It's to suppress that big blast, that signature that's giving you away. Because this puppy right here will kick up some dust in a desert environment, for sure. All right? I remember one time that Ronnie and Chris came out. Same thing. Steve Holland brought them out there to the sniper locker. They were showing off some stuff they had. They call up me and Sularoo, and they, hey Carl, you got to come out. You've got to see this thing. And I get out there, and they had the 50, the M82A1, but they had it with a suppressor on it. I just mentioned that. But they also had a separate upper receiver. And I looked at the mag. It had an even bigger muzzle brake, big god-awful thing, a little bit shorter barrel. It had rounds, same magazine, so you could use the same lower, and it was 25 millimeter. Now, I want that to sink in. 25 millimeter. Now, the 25 millimeter, people think the chain gun for like a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle, not the same round, not the same round at all. This thing worked more like the chain gun on the Apache. It wasn't working off of velocity. It had now the Apache's 30 millimeter. This thing was only 25 millimeter. But what it worked off of was a shape charge, a small shape charge, a much smaller shape charge than an M203, but an M203 has a very limited range. Now, I mentioned the slap rounds. This is not a slap round, but this is roughly what they look like. I mentioned the slap rounds, armor piercing rounds that you could get for the 50. And within 600-700 meters, it had enough velocity and was hitting hard enough. It would go through the side of a BMP-3. But you get out past 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, you could hit that BMP-3, but you didn't have the kinetic energy for that tungsten carbide penetrator to go through the BMP-3. You're just making noise on the outside. Now, that shape charge in that 25 millimeter would kill a BMP-3 at 300 meters. It had, because it's using a shape charge, an explosive shape charge, to make that plasma jet to penetrate the armor. Okay, well, a slap round could do that, yes, but this 25 millimeter Barrett could hit that BMP-3 at 2,500 meters. Now, at that speed, it's coming in like you threw a football, all right? But that shape charge, so long as it hits angled in the correct direction, it will penetrate the same amount of armor at 2,000 meters as it would at 300 meters because it's using the explosive shape charge to penetrate. So I thought it was an awesome idea. Sularoo thought it was an awesome idea. Steve Holland thought it was an awesome idea. Ronnie Barrett and Chris thought it was an awesome idea. The problem they ran into was getting the amount of felt recoil down to acceptable levels for big army, and there were other problems with the program. The round itself, it never went into production, and for that, you'll see me wipe a tear from my eye, because guys, that would have been awesome. 25 millimeter, but guys, it would have been cool, but do you really need it? Because think about it, you know, we're not fighting Soviet BMP-3s. We're not. We're fighting unconventional warfare, and the global war on terror is it's basically asymmetric warfare. We're fighting terrorist organizations that are using civilian equipment. So as far as deadlighting vehicles, still deadlighting Scud missiles, still deadlighting aircraft, it's still completely capable of doing all those same missions that we were asking this weapon to do back in the Cold War. Fast forward modern day, you'll still see guys hauling the M107A1s around with them. They'll even if you don't see it, it's in that Pelican case on the back of the Humvee or on that Flyer vehicle. Because I'm here to tell you, this thing brings a great thing to the fight. It really does. As far as penetrating walls, if you've seen our wall videos, you guys will know I hit our brick walls with everything from 9mm birdshot, buckshot, slugs, everything else, and nothing went through the walls. I'm here to tell you, this puppy right here, it goes through all my walls. Why? Because it's 750 grains of love. All right, so it'll crush anything you put in front of it pretty well, from my standpoint anyways. Now, I mentioned that it's semi-automatic. Now, as far as it being, going up against a bolt action gun, yeah, guys, that 1 mile target up there on the hill, you can plug it all day long with the Barrett MRAD. It's a bolt action, it's a beautiful gun. It's the gun that got the new Army ASR contract. It is an accurate gun. In 300 or 338 Norma, you can hit that 1 mile target. I'm here to tell you, gents, my shoulder is sore, and I never hit it. I'll be here to tell you, I did not hit the 1 mile target today. We'll go up to 1,000 with it all day long, and we'll play with it. And why? Guys, because I don't care that it's a 4 MOA gun. What I care is when I get near this thing and I rub it because it's my whoopee, all right, it takes me back to before I retired, where I was surrounded on both sides by great Americans and my brothers in arms, and I've poured a lot of ammo through this gun. So anyways, I just wanted to bring it out, dust it off, and I was going to shoot this puppy all day long anyways, so I wanted to share it with y'all. So anyways, gents, you know the deal. I read all your comments, put them below. If you've never shot the Barrett 50 cal before, you need to put it on your bucket list, because I'm here to tell you guys, you're gonna fall in love with this thing. You really will. It may not be the most accurate gun on the battlefield, but this is the bull in the china shop, that when you need to crush something and hit something really, really hard, this is what you look over and you ask the guy to do it with. Y'all take care, shoot straight. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you don't miss out on anything.